Hi, and welcome to the podcast. My name is Father Bill W. I'm an Episcopal priest living here in Austin, Texas, and I'm in long-term recovery from alcoholism. Had the gift of recovery since December 27th of 1972. And I hope you're finding these podcasts of interest. I hope they're being helpful to you in your own recovery. That's why we're putting them out there. And if they are being helpful, I'd encourage you to tell a friend about them and follow us on Facebook. You can find me under Father Bill W. And if you haven't done so already, please be sure to visit our website. It's called Two Way Prayer, TWO, twowayprayer.org. And it has lots of information that will help you do the practice of prayer that they were doing in early recovery back in the days of the Oxford Group and in the time of the first 100 people in AA. And that was the thing that was really transforming people and changing them. And for one reason or another, it's been lost. So we're trying to get that information out there and have people take another look at it. Hey, and one final thing I got is if you have a question about two-way prayer or a suggestion for any of our upcoming episodes, I'd ask you to write me at, again, twowayprayer@gmail.com and make a suggestion. In this episode, I want to share a story with you. It's a little outside of the ordinary. We've done some interviews, we've done teaching in this last series on how to do two-way prayer. This is a little different, and I wasn't quite sure where exactly it fit in, but it's important, and I want to share it with you. It's a story, and it's a story that really began my own process of change, and I learned it when I was 20 years sober, and it had a really profound effect on me. It's the best story I ever heard, and it's a story about spiritual institutions and how they evolve, how they change over time. And what was happening with me was I was 20 years sober, and I'd been a good little AA boy and making my meetings and working with sponsors, sponsoring other people. I had worked in the field of addiction, but I always kept my 12-step life separate uh, so that I didn't contaminate it with that educational stuff. And I was doing real well for a long, long while, but around 20 years, I started feeling flat. And I've found that that's somewhat common. It's kind of a 20-year marker that people who've been really serious about it and working it hard, they kind of come up against a wall, and it's like, is this all there is? And I just knew inside that going through the steps yet another time, at least the way I had been working them, wasn't likely to do much good. And 90 meetings in 90 days wasn't about to get me out of the funk. But somehow, I think when we're ready, when we're really ready to take another leap, change, the universe responds. And I was asking for help. And I was out in West Texas, and I met a guy. He was also in the program, and he was a Unity minister. He had several years more in recovery than I did. And he and I went out to dinner, and I told him what was going on with me. I just said, I'm flat. I need something more, and I'm not sure what it is. And he asked me then, had I ever heard the story of the five M's? And I said, no, I had not. He said, well, this is the story of spiritual institutions, and it's the evolution of those institutions, how they change over time. And he thought it would be helpful for me, and it truly was. So here's how it goes. He said the first M, it starts with a man, and the man could be Jesus, or it could be Buddha, or it could be Bill Wilson. And that man undergoes a spiritual transformation, a psychic change, a deep, deep, deep change in his psyche. And so for Jesus, it's the story is told about his going into the Jordan River at his baptism, and he comes up, and the Spirit of God descends upon him. Boom, he's changed. He's beginning now his mission. All right, he sets off. For the Buddha, he's confounded by the problems of life, pain, suffering, death. He's worried about them, and he ponders them. He sits under a tree, and he sits and he sits and he sits. And finally, he's given enlightenment. He understands, and he's changed. And he then goes around the community, attracting people who also want to change. And for Bill Wilson, the story is that he had been in detox 3 times, and 3 times he had his hopes up, and 3 times he went out within the period of about a year and a half, and he failed. He fell flat on his face, and he was desperate. And then he goes into the hospital for the 4th time after he had been introduced to the Oxford group, and Ebby had told him that there was hope for the hopeless. And Bill asked God for help. He went into a deep, deep depression and said a kind of an Oxford group prayer, kind of a typical Oxford group prayer. God, if there is a God, God, if you're listening to me, please help me. I'll do anything, anything. And then, of course, he has his white light experience. He feels the presence of God right there in that hospital room. And he never took a drink again for the rest of his life. It changed him at a very, very deep level. He had an encounter with the divine, an experience that he could never he could never discount. He knew that it was real. He knew that God was real. So there's the man, all right? And the man comes out of that experience, that encounter, with a message. And the message is almost always who you are, how you can change. And so they go around announcing the change, announcing what happened to them. And then people who are ready to hear the message, it's like, oh my God, I've been waiting all my life for this. And so Jesus calls it the kingdom. You know, the kingdom of God is among you. It's with you. It's in you. You know, it's here. John the Baptist had said it's coming. Jesus said, no, it's here. You know, all you have to do is open your heart, open your eyes, wake up, start living in it. For Buddha, the same thing. He announces this to anyone who will listen. And the people who are ready to listen, they do listen. And the message of who they are starts to really come to life. You know, because we're not who we think we are. You know, we're once that message starts to have its effect on us, the transformation process is really beginning. So Jesus and the disciples, the Buddha and his monks, the first 100 who start hearing the message, they become the third M, which is the movement. So you have the man, the message, and then the movement. And the movement are the early days of the program, the early days of discipleship. What's happening? So for Jesus, it's transformations happening to the people, to the men and women who are ready for it, and that those continue even after his death. For the Buddha, he assembles a group of monks who then carry the message to those who are willing and ready to receive it. For Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob, it's those wonderful early days when alcoholics were coming, hearing about this process, hoping against hope that it might work for them, and then being changed themselves. Exciting times, eh? Very exciting, very, very thrilling. The movement is alive. Okay, but then this is where it can go a bit afoul, eh? The movement has got to be organized, and so somebody's got to be in control. Who's in charge? So we start writing things down, and who's in and who's out. A lot of that is about control. In the early church, um, who was in charge? Who gets to say who's in and who's out? Um, which books are we going to say are canonical, are approved, and which are not? And so we begin to organize. We bring in the scribes, the attorneys, the secretaries. We start writing it all down. Okay. Buddhists go through the same thing, organizing the life of the monks, and in AA, we start the process of protecting this thing through rules and regulations. Wilson said different groups had so many rules that none of the founders could have even gotten into the things. They would have been thrown out in a minute. They wouldn't qualify. So they have a tendency to be really, really strict. All right, and so the evolution continues, and in the church you get the bishops, and they're in control. They get the pointy hat and a big stick, and if you step out of line, whack. They're going to let you know. And in AA, we get the central office, and this is the machine. And what the machine is trying to do is to protect the message and get the message out to other people. It's the organizational phase of the institution. And I just imagine, go 200 years as we get organized, as we get mechanical. I guess that's the word I'm really looking for. We get mechanical in our approach to transformation, rather than undergoing the transformation ourselves. We will read a book. We will go to a meeting. I mean, it's fascinating. One of the early things that I learned in doing my own research in this area was that meetings were not the thing that were transformational. The things that was absolutely necessary and vital to transformation, to recovery, was prayer and meditation. Well, that all got changed. The machine said, go to meetings. We know what's right. And so the individual journey becomes now a corporate journey, a journey of groups of individuals. And while that can be really helpful, it can also be really dangerous. Um, the church, I'll go back to AA. If I have a thought of, like 200-300 years from now, as the organization takes over, we will have a world meeting, and someone at the 200th anniversary of AA is going to hold up the sacred coffee pot that Dr. Bob and Bill drank from. And alcoholics who haven't been able to get sober will go up there and rub the coffee pot. Can you see what I'm saying? the transformation becomes mechanical. Somebody will have the ashes of the first 100. It'll be the cigarette ashes, and if you haven't been able to get sober, smear these on your forehead, and maybe it's going to happen. Somebody many years ago, a very good woman, but she gave me an AA rosary, so that you have the beads and you say the steps over and over and over again. And there's the mechanical part of the program. And the fifth M after the machine is the mausoleum, because it's dead. And so the fellow asked me at dinner, he said, "Have you ever been to a dead AA meeting?" I said, "Yes, I have." He said, "You ever been in a dead church?" I said, "Yeah, I've been in some dead churches." All right. Uh, how about dead treatment centers? Yes. The spirit's gone out of them, you see. It isn't a place where transformation is likely to happen. Matter of fact, it's probably the last place on earth that's going to happen. And so the mausoleum, the monument, it's dead. And what everybody has to do, of course, is go back to the beginning. And you have to become that man. You have to undergo that change. You have to begin the real transformation process. I'll never forget after he told me that story, a couple of months later, I was up in Midwest somewhere, and I was at an AA clubhouse. And I swear to God, this is a true story. And there was a 5 o'clock AA meeting that was going to start. I got there a little bit early, and there was a woman in there who was playing solitaire. And I wait, and a couple of other people kind of drift in, getting close to 5. And without missing a beat, the woman keeps dealing the cards and says, "Hi, my name's Mary. I'm an alcoholic. Welcome to the 5 o'clock meeting." Kept playing the cards. And I said, "Oh my God, the machine is here. We're not going to meet. Nobody's going to be transformed. And Mary's going to make damn sure that doesn't happen." All right. And then it was only a few weeks after that I'm in Oklahoma City, and I meet Earl Husband, who was an AA archivist, excuse me. And Earl and I spent 3 hours together one night in his home, and he explained to me how the steps had originated and where they came from out of the Oxford group. And the things that he told me that night really began to change my life. It opened me up to a whole new experience of the 12-step process in a way that has remained. That was like 27 years ago. And I got to tell you, I have not been bored in the last 27 years because it's opened the door, particularly through the process of two-way prayer. And that's the thing that totally got lost. And I have gone deeper and deeper into that form of prayer, and it's changed my life. It's taken me in many different directions. And as I've worked with people over the years, particularly people who've been in 12-step recovery for a while and are feeling flat, and particularly people who have been through treatment centers any number of times, have started recoveries any number of times, and have fallen by the wayside. These are the people in particular, I think, who find two-way prayer a real godsend. Why? Because they're desperate. I was desperate. I needed something that was going to change me, transform my life, take me deeper. I didn't want to leave AA. Haven't left AA. All right, but I've gone deeper into the original program. And I think that's what God wanted me to do, and now is trying to encourage me to do my work to get this message out to other people. So I hope that story was helpful for you. Um, I don't want to be sarcastic about it. I mean, AA, the 12 steps, it's wonderful stuff. Um, but what I do now is I only work the last three steps. I work 10, 11, and 12. I don't go through the cycle all over, go back to the beginning and start over again. I haven't found a spiritual principle that exists in steps 1 through 9 that's missing from 10, 11, and 12. And so it's a very simple process. I watch in step 10. I watch myself. I watch myself inside. I watch my life outside. So 10, watch. Jesus says, watch and pray. And one of the early AA folks said something I thought was really brilliant. He said, if you don't watch, you don't know what the hell to pray for. And then that opened a door for me. If you don't watch, you won't know what to pray for. So 10, we watch. 11, we pray. And it's a different kind of prayer. It's a prayer that includes listening. And it includes writing down the thoughts that come. That was the thing that they insisted upon, that you live by the four absolutes of honesty, purity, unselfishness, and love. And if you're doing that and you're set on doing God's will, God's going to reveal his will to you. And so we write down the things that come. And then in 12, we act. We are transformed, and we go about being guided and doing God's will as we best understand it. And Dr. Bob was real clear on that. That if you if you're serious about this thing, and you're doing it the way the originators had done it, you're not going to get yourself into too much trouble. You may not receive guidance every single day, but act on the guidance. And I try to take that very, very seriously, and to do the things that God is guiding me to do. If I've got questions about them, I check them out by the four absolutes. Is that thought that I've written down, is it honest? Is it pure? Is it unselfish? Is it loving? If I'm still confused by that, I'll go talk to somebody else who's also listening to the process. So it becomes a way of life. It becomes a way of life, a spiritual way of life, that I think the originators of the program were intent on bringing to us. It's also, I would say this, it's maybe a more mature way of life, so that the dependencies, the reliances are put where they need to be, onto God, and guided by the group, but not bound by the group. So I think you'll find the process stimulating, enlightening, life changing, and that's what they used to call those guys. They were life changers. They were setting out to change lives, one life at a time. So anyway, hope this story has been helpful to you. It means a lot to me, and hope it touched you in some way. Thank you again for listening. Hope you have a great summer. I think we're going to kind of end the series that we've done at this point and pick it up again in September. So I encourage you, if you're new to this, please go back, listen to the 12 steps. We go through each one of the 12 steps and kind of give some insights, I hope, into how they came about, what the history was behind them. Could be something really, really helpful for you in your own recovery. So thank you for listening. God bless, and keep coming back.